It's time again for Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association.
Welcome to another session of Talking Trade. I am Ken Wasylik, Managing Director of Wasylik & Associates, an international business development company.
And I'm Sandi, Siegel, President of ME Day. It's a personal honor to welcome a returning guest of Talking Trade, Adam Tindall-Schlicht, the 11th Administrator of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway Development, and that's by appointment of President Biden in November of last year. In this role, the Administrator oversees the federal corporation responsible for the operation and maintenance of the U.S. portion of the St. Lawrence Seaway between Montreal and Lake Erie. I think also many of you know and remember Adam in his previous role as the Director of the Port of Milwaukee, which was from 2018 until he took his recent appointment. So welcome back to Talking Trade, Adam, and it's so nice to see you and hear about your new position. So tell us about your new role and some of the challenges that you might be tasked with. I think ports in general are dealing with the need of expansion, automation, and dealing with infrastructure investment, which I know our government's committed to. So tell us, what some of the challenges are that you face as you enter this new role.
Well, first, let me say what a pleasure to be back with all of you again, and really to help share the story of the importance of Great Lakes shipping from a region-wide perspective. I mean, as Milwaukee's former port director, we're able to do a lot of work at the port to well position that port in terms of increased international utilization from a multimodal perspective. And now as Seaway Administrator, we're having a lot of those conversations, and I'm honored and humbled to be doing that work on behalf of numerous US and Canadian Great Lakes ports that depend on our lock system for international connectivity. A little bit of background. So the Seaway system is a series of locks and canals that helps connect the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes, allowing for US flag, Canadian flag, and foreign flag vessels to come to an array of US and Canadian ports on the Great Lakes. We've operated these locks in perpetuity since 1959, and really it's become one of the Seaway system has become one of the major trade arteries for the Great Lakes maritime economy and all of the U.S. Great Lakes states that depend on robust port-led import and export activity. Sandi, to your question, I mean, what are the challenges of the moment? What are the opportunities of the moment? As administrator, I'm based at the U.S. Department of Transportation, reporting directly to Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And I can tell you that both I, Secretary Buttigieg, and of course, President Biden share a commitment to utilizing the full capacity of the St. Lawrence Seaway system. Right now, when you look at the amount of potential vessel activity through the 15 US and Canadian locks, you could increase the amount of traffic through this federal infrastructure by double. Meaning that there would be no operational impact were we to increase that amount of vessel traffic coming to US and Canadian Great Lakes ports. Now, we want to do that in an economically and environmentally resilient way. We view ourselves as stewards of the Great Lakes and stewards of this freshwater asset. And in addition to the work that we do in the federal and international space, we talk about the need for expansion, automation, and infrastructure investment at U.S. Great Lakes ports. Part of the reason why I'm so excited to be a member of the Biden-Harris administration is we're working at a time of generational opportunity and change. The bipartisan infrastructure bill and indeed the Inflation Reduction Act have brought forward hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in new competitive grant programs and other funding sources in which Great Lakes ports, private terminals, and other multimodal infrastructure transportation assets can apply and begin that reinvestment process. We have not seen a level of infrastructure investment that's been U.S. government led like this, I would argue, since the New Deal. So it's a rare opportunity to be really trying to be a catalyst, a facilitator, and a supporter of port-led investment through these federal programs that are online today.
That's fabulous. And with my forwarder hat on, we'll take the routings through the Great Lakes Seaway, over East-West Coast. It's efficient, it's reliable, and certainly, great service for those of us here in Wisconsin. So that's exciting to hear.
Adam, thanks for that overview. Just give us a little understanding of the amount of traffic and amount of cargo and how important and what type of ag exports and imports run through the Seaway.
I mean, last year through the locks of the Seaway, over 36 million tons of cargo were handled. Now, international shipping through the Seaway traditionally goes from about the middle of March until the very end of December, meaning that U.S. Great Lakes ports, including those in Wisconsin like Superior, Green Bay, and Milwaukee, really have about 9 to 10 months of international connectivity for those vessels coming to their ports from around the world. 36.5 million tons is a little bit low in terms of some of the trends that we've seen over the history of the Seaway. Our target always is for, we like to see between 38 and 40 million tons of cargo, knowing that there's a lot more potential. Again, to double that amount of traffic that you're seeing into U.S. Great Lakes ports in Wisconsin, and of course, all of the other Great Lakes states. Now, what are some of those sweet spots? Certainly since the Seaway opened to world connectivity in 1959, traditional sort of trade patterns has been a tremendous amount of imported European steel and agricultural commodities, U.S. and Canadian, being exported to Northern Europe, Western Europe, North Africa, and the Mediterranean. We're in a time of cargo diversification on the Great Lakes. We're seeing new container services coming online that forwarders are looking at, that supply chain logisticians are looking at. The Port of Cleveland has had an established maritime container service for several years. The Port of Duluth, the twin ports of Duluth and Superior, have a new maritime container service through their Duluth Cargo Connect program that went online in 2022. And we're seeing new container opportunities coming online at ports like Monroe, Michigan. So we're seeing this cargo diversification expanding beyond the imported steel and exported ag to include an array of products, dry bulk products, iron ore, liquid bulk, general cargoes. This is really the contemporary story of shipping through the Seaway to U.S. and Canadian Great Lakes ports.
It seems like, Adam, there's a lot of opportunities here for U.S. exporters and importers as well. You mentioned the steel and some of these heavy metals that are coming from Europe as well. The last 3 years, and Sandy has lived this, has had multiple supply chain issues, congestion at the ports. We've talked about our seaports on the East Coast and the West Coast. What's the fare right now? How are the Great Lakes ports managing with all the challenges, the efficiencies, some of the backlog, the labor issues, inflation? What's the status of our ports here in Great Lakes?
Well, let me present it this way. Part of the reasons why I love being administrator of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway is because I know in my heart that Great Lakes ports are an untapped relief valve for international trade. So for those communities throughout the heartland of North America that are looking for, again, safe, reliable, cost-effective solutions, independent or in complement to existing trade lanes through East and West Coast ports, the Great Lakes ports are hungry and ready to support that trade activity through the locks of the Seaway. I would argue in the short time that I've been a member of the Biden-Harris administration, proof is in the pudding. I think we're seeing that the U.S. Department of Transportation, and indeed our secretary, has shown a really tremendous amount of leadership to address what has been the supply chain bottlenecks that were exacerbated by COVID. When I look at trade patterns throughout the country, in 2021, more cargo moved through U.S. ports around the nation than in any other time in American history. I mean, retail sales were at all-time highs. Truck drivers are returning to work. There's more truck drivers on the road than at any point pre-pandemic. So as a leader, as an appointee, and as a member here of the senior leadership at the U.S. Department of Transportation, I can tell you that we're doubling down on that work, that good progress that's been made as we've moved into the new normal post-pandemic. And I'm excited to bring a lot of that change, a lot of that vision, and a lot of that perspective on how we can accomplish that on the Great Lakes as Seaway administrator.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
Certainly encouraging to, get positive news on the heel of all the backlogs and congestion and so forth. And that, yeah, you're ready and doors are open. So it's exciting.
I remain optimistic and a lot of potential.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm a cheerleader with you for the Great Lakes sports. So terrific. I'm afraid we're out of time. Adam, I'm very excited. Again, congratulations on your appointment and all the opportunity and the work that you're doing there. And thank you for joining us on Talking Trade.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
I would just say, I mean, we're excited here at the Seaway to be leading to support port-led infrastructure, agricultural exports and cargo diversification, and again, ongoing infrastructure renewal. This is the key to a more sustainable and more robust activity of Great Lakes trade. Thank you for everything that you do. We're so excited to support it.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Adam.
You've been listening to Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association